after he helped them fight the dreaded Blackfeet. Widely noted for their horsemanship, the Nez Perce were also regarded as the best horse breeders west of the broad Mississippi. Many frontiersmen would give a year's earnings just to own one of their outstanding animals. His stallion was typical of the breed. It sported black spots on a roan background, had white-rimmed eyes, and was further distinguished by white stripes over its hoofs. He swung nimbly into the saddle, gripped the reins, and swung around, about to head northward in search of more buffalo. In the far distance, at the limits of his vision, something moved, a tiny black speck amidst the vastness of the unending prairie. Leaning forward, he placed his left hand over his eyes to block out the bright morning sun. Was it another buffalo? If so, he'd reach the Shoshone village by dark and spend all night with his wife. The appealing prospect brought a smile to his lips. Playing it safe, Nate turned to the west and rode in a wide loop in the hope he would spot a low hill or another knoll from which he could spy on whatever it was. While he would much rather ride in a beeline and found out if it was indeed a bull so he could kill it and return to the village, prudence dictated otherwise. As he well knew, careless mountaineers did not survive long in the wilderness. One of the first laws of survival he had learned was to never take anything for granted. What if that moving dot was in reality a fierce grizzly or a hostile warrior? He must determine what it was before he made his presence known. He hunched low over the saddle to blend his silhouette with that of the stallion's. From far off, the horse would appear to be riderless, just one of the many wild animals roaming the plains. If that figure out there was indeed an enemy, a lone horse wouldn't arouse suspicion. Nate held the hawken in his right hand, the reins in his left. He could feel the twin flintlocks he invariably carried rubbing against his midsection. They were wedged tight under his brown leather belt, one on either side of the big buckle. In addition to the pistols, he had a butcher knife in a beaded sheath on his left hip, and a tomahawk tucked under the belt above his right hip. Slanted across his broad chest were a bullet pouch and a powder horn. Moccasins covered his feet. In every respect, his attire was typical of trappers, those hardy souls who had ventured into the remote vastness of the foreboding Rockies to make their living by securing beaver pelts for the lucrative Eastern and European markets. Nate had never regretted his decision to come west. Not only had he found the love of his life in the beautiful person of Winona, he had also discovered the true meaning of a word he had never paid much attention to during the years he spent growing up in New York City, a word he now regarded as one of the most precious in the entire English language: freedom. To be able to live as he pleased without being accountable to any man meant as much to him as life itself. Back in New York, where he had bowed to his father's every whim and labored as an aspiring accountant under a spiteful taskmaster, he had been bound by invisible chains and never realized the fact. His behavior had been... What was that? Nate drew rein, listening to the mournful, wavering notes of an eerie howl that wafted on the cool breeze. He glanced toward the dot, squinting in an effort to see it better. The distance prevented him from being certain, but he had the impression the figure was walking on two legs. A man afoot? It must be an Indian, since no white man in his right mind would dare to be so foolhardy as to travel anywhere in the wilderness without a horse. There were too many dangers, from wild beasts and hostiles alike. The howling was repeated, and to the east of the lone figure materialized a dozen or more low forms flowing over the ground in the figure's direction. Nate straightened, the short hairs at the nape of his neck tingling. Those forms were wolves. Although they ordinarily gave humans a wide berth, they would attack if hungry enough, or if they came on an injured man or woman incapable of offering much resistance. They did the same with buffalo. Wolves were nature's way of gleaning the weak and the aged from the huge herds, of ensuring only the fittest survived. Elk, deer, and smaller game also fell prey to the roaming packs. "Let's go, Pegasus," Nate said.